And we are back at the space weather! Looking at the sun, 304 angstroms. Not a lot going on. Quite weak solar minimum activity levels. And the main features are just coronal holes. We have one south of the equator there. Actually, two of them south of the equator. Right into the Earth-facing region. Let's look at some solar wind data. Here's the real-time solar wind data, for which we always leave links in the description. Please check the description for our links. You see an uptick in the solar wind density from yesterday to 9.29 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed 395 kilometers per second. And we do see a phi angle right around 180 degrees right now. The blue pane second from the top. The blue line second from the top, rather. So that's an increased earthquake risk due to coronal hole magnetic field connections. Before we look at more stuff, let's look at cosmic rays. First at Athens. Here's the situation the last 30 days at Athens. Here we see a big series of downticks at Mexico City, similar to ones we saw about 60 days ago in Athens. And here's Oulu, Finland, not agreeing with Mexico City. DOMC Antarctica. And here's DOMB Antarctica. Little downtick there also. How about some geospace magnetosphere movies? Here's the velocity. Actually quite low. Here's the density. A little toward the high side. Again, I would note that the low density is blue and the high density is... Sorry, the low density is white and the high density is blue on this one. And we're talking about the density of the protons here, by the way. And there is the pressure. We'll let that play through. And it refreshed on us. There we go. And the fish said they want to be on, so there's Phelps. And there's Jim. And there's Jaws. Say hi, Jaws. Next, we've got your geospace ground perturbation maps. Also courtesy of University of Michigan. And for that, we thank you. Here's a view from the poles. And here's the globe view. Some action going on in Canada, as well as the South Pole, as it creeps toward Western Australia. And here's some more data at the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. No X-ray flares. KP index. Oh, we got to verify that one. KP index at 4. All right. There's your Aurora forecast for the northern hemisphere. And we'll look at the LASCO C3 while we're here. Okay, buddy. Load, buddy. Well, it's not going to load, and I'm not going to wait. And let's look at the C2 instead here. This does load. We see some ejecta coming out there on the 27th out of the western limb. And I'm going to move this down after you see the date stamps. Let it play through a second time. There we go. And here are the last approximately 3 days on the Stereo A Core 2 space weather beacon. Not seeing anything headed down the Sun to Earth pipeline. Here's your total electron content forecast. And this helps to predict things like GPS errors and also satellite communication errors. Here's a quick earthquake rundown, last 24 hours. We see a 4.6 at Argentina at depth, 4.7 at Fiji at 613 kilometers, 4.2 at Alaska, 5.2 at Greece, and there's a 6.1 at Papua New Guinea. So we've had 2 6-magnitude quakes in the past 2 days. Any tsunami watch, threat, warning, advisory? Looks like no. I also see a 4.6 in the Philippines at depth, putting them on a greater alert level. There's a deep quake at the Dominican Republic too, also a deep quake at Alaska. Chile with a 4.5 magnitude quake, 4.4 at Kamchatsky, Russia, 4.5 in Iran, 4.0 in Japan, 5.4 in the Solomon Islands, and a 4.4 at the Philippines. Now we're at quakes.globalincidentmap.com, and I'll draw in your earthquake warning zones as I typically do. If you're in these areas, you're still having a magnitude 7 earthquake drought, despite these 6s in the past few days. And we're seeing deep quakes in a lot of the regions. So be on watch. Be an asset, not a liability if a disaster happens. Here's a volcano list. We see Karimsky still erupting with a 7,000-foot plume. Mount Aso in central Japan, after a brief period of unrest, lowered the level alert back to 1. The alert level back to 1, rather. Saab and Kaya unable to detect, and Planchon Petaroa looks like a volcanic downtick. Let's go a little farther from home. Testing Einstein's equivalence principle near a supermassive black hole. Now, this is some interesting science. I'm not going to get into the Einsteinian weeds. However, what they're doing is they're measuring a star that has a 16-year periodicity as it revolves around Sagittarius A star, the galactic core. We'll leave links to the article there, phys.org, if you'd like further reading. Let's come back to the solar system and look at the Gong 2. This data 1 hour and 57 minutes old. And for those new viewers who don't understand stereo A and stereo B, this is stereo A, and the view that we had at the Core 2 Space Weather Beacon would be a view from this kind of an orientation toward the sun, where the Earth would be to the right. And here's stereo B, and that's too many arrows. So here's A, here's B. Sadly, B has been busted since 2014 when a hardware anomaly caused it to lose most of its function. Anyway, there's that Gong 2 environment. That's a magnetic environment. Keep in mind, it is prone to change at any time with zero warning. Next, I want to talk about the recent uptick in solar activity and how the sun has gone right back into a grand solar minimum type low level of activity. So, that Sunspot 27, 35, and 36 event, where we had a big uptick in the 10.7 centimeter radio flux and solar activity in general. We are at solon.info/solar right now, and there's that graph, that uptick that we saw right there. There's the uptick we saw, and now we are back below 70 again for the 10.7 centimeter radio flux. So that has to do with solar cycles, and let's look at one other graph here. Here's a historic data on the solar cycles. Solon.info. If you'd like to see this data yourself, there are a lot of other things also. There's the list. And it even has the solar polar fields, although they need to update that because I need the current measurements. Please update solon.info. Next, we were talking about securing the grid yesterday, and not on this channel, I just mean I personally was talking about it, and found this site today, securethegrid.com. Go check it out. I don't know, I haven't read everything on it, but as many of you are aware, an EMP or a massive solar storm can knock down the U.S. power grid, not to mention the rest of the power grids. It should only cost a couple $2 billion to fortify it. And don't you think it would be a good idea to fortify the grid, in that if a massive solar storm such as the 1859 Carrington event hits the Earth, the power grid will go down, possibly for years. And if you're not aware what that means, let me just give you a hint. After 24 hours, people will kill each other for 1 gallon of gas. So do the math on what it's like if the grid goes down for 6 months or 2 years. Secure the grid. Secure the grid. Seriously. When we said we were starting a nonprofit organization, we weren't kidding. Smashamash.org is already a thing. It's not set up at all yet. It's just a clone of smashamash.com. But it will be beefed up soon. So check out smashamash.org and smashamash.com if you like for our other links. Although you will see the same links in the description below this video. Next, with summer right around the corner, let's talk cruisers. Who knows what a cruiser is? A cruiser is basically a BMX bike with bigger wheels. So, they're usually pretty simple. Single speed, some of them have internal shifting rear hubs. Some of them have a rear derailleur. Usually, they don't have a front derailleur. I've had my eye on this one for a while, actually. And one day when I own a beach house, seriously, I want that bike. That bike is just awesome. So head to veloshop.net for all of your cycling needs. Official cycling shop of the Lehigh Valley Velodrome. Finally, we've got a view at 171 angstroms. This is my favorite view personally, as it is great at showing magnetic looping. There are those who would say electromagnetism makes the universe go round. So thanks for tuning in. We'll be doing it all again tomorrow, and possibly even today. Keep staring at the sun, because it'll never be now again. And in closing, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your arteries.